Welcome to the Butterfly Effect. I'm Chris Horner. This is stage 5 of the 24 Vuelta a España, brought to you by Lupine Lights. Lupine Lights, the premier lighting system for your bike. When the sun goes down, it's time to light the streets and the trails up with Lupine Lights. If you're looking to save 24% on your next order of Lupine Lights, use the code LupineLights24 to save you some bucks. Now let's get into today's stage 5 of the Tour of Spain. It's one for the sprinters. There's 0 category climbs out there, so you know it's going to be a field sprint. Let me take you back in time then, and let's talk about stage 4, because stage 5 at the beginning is a sleeper. Guarantee you missed nothing if you slept in. So let's back up and look at stage 4 and discuss the last 14.5 kilometers of the summit finish on stage 4 and the big teams. Bora Hansgrohe, UAE, Team Emirates, and of course Visma Lease Bike. When everything was said, done, and dusted, we know Primoz Roglic is wearing the race leader's red jersey, so they must have did something right. But how right is it when we start comparing to last year's 23 Jumbo-Visma team that just dominated with numbers all over the place? They went 1, 2, and 3 on the general classification with Sepp, with Jonas Vingegaard, and of course with Primoz Roglic third, and won multiple stages all over the place. When you finish looking at stage 4, there is no team that looked like Jumbo-Visma did at the 23 Vuelta a España. So how do I rate them? Well, first off, as we start coming into 5.2 kilometer to go, UAE Team Emirates is on the front like I discussed on yesterday's Butterfly Effect. This is what you have to do when they're riding Soler at about 6 kilometers to go and Jay Vine into that crucial 2.5 kilometers to go. As Jay Vine hits that left turn and starts, this is where we start seeing some mistakes being made, and I think the mistakes are being made by UAE Team Emirates. Not coming into that left turn. Soler and Jay Vine had to do a fantastic job to run into that turn, so their GC guys have a good shot at going up this 3 kilometer super steep section. Now the problem is, when Sivakov starts attacking, okay, I told you yesterday he's breaking the number 2 rule on the Butterfly Effect. That rule is you never attack on the steepest climb when you're going against a rider that's a first page rider like Primoz Roglic. I've told you since the beginning of this Vuelta a España that Primoz Roglic is the hot hand favorite. I don't care if he crashed at the Tour de France. He's crashed 2 times at the Tour de France and 2 different times in years past and still won the Vuelta a España, so he's the hot favorite. Now, when Sivakov is attacking, the upside to attacking at this moment is there is the slim possibility that we don't know where Primoz Roglic's form is. So if everyone on UAE team members are coming into 5.2 kilometers to go and all their GC guys are running on fantastic form. Adam Yates said before 14.5 kilometers started, guys, I feel fantastic. I got magical legs. Let's stay with plan A. Let's have Sivakov light it up at 5.2 kilometers to go. If he said that, that's the right mark. If Brandon McNulty said, hey, I got fantastic form, let's go and light it up. So you got Brandon McNulty with good form, you got Adam Yates with good form, and then, of course, you have Almeida who has to say, yes, Sivakov, I have great form. Light it up at 5.2 kilometer to go. We can all make it up over this climb. We're not scared of Primoz Roglic. Maybe Primoz Roglic, as I said, isn't 100% and he would need some more time to get into this Grand Tour and get deeper into it before his form becomes 100%. Okay, we see Sivakov attacking. Then you see Vlasov back there for Bora Hansgrohe riding the front for Primoz Roglic. He blows. Primoz Roglic does exactly what I feared would happen if you're trying to break the number 2 rule on the Butterfly Effect. You're attacking the best rider in the world, the first page rider, the most dominant rider here at the Vuelta a España, if not one of the most dominant riders in the European peloton. Everybody fears Primoz Roglic when he's on 100% form. Vlasov made the crucial mistake of attacking and finding out the hard way that Primoz Roglic is on magical form. Now, Primoz Roglic has to close the gap because Vlasov can't. When you start looking at this scenario, well, he blew the peloton up in pieces. So you know at that moment that Primoz Roglic is on good form. What we also know at that moment is Primoz Roglic doesn't have a hot-handed team back there like we saw last year in 23 with Jumbo-Visma. We see Vlasov couldn't bring back Sivakov. That shows he's a little bit off on form. Danny Martinez wasn't able to ride the front at all. Lipovitz did a little bit of work of getting Primoz Roglic into 2.5 kilometer to go, rode just a tad, and then Vlasov took over and both those guys blew. So with the acceleration from Primoz Roglic, you know he's on fine form, but you also know, if you're paying attention on stage 4, that his teammates are starting to drop out the back. Danny's not as good as he should be. He'll end up losing about 4 minutes on the stage. Lipovitz lost about 1:30, 1:40 seconds. And Vlasov was the best of the riders outside of Primoz Roglic, where he's under a minute in time, so he didn't lose a ton. But their team's not 100% like we saw Visma bike last year. That means we have a very exciting Vuelta a España. The problem is, for UAE team members, once Sivakov gets brought back, Primoz Roglic accelerates, blows it all up, and ends up just being 3 riders going over the top of the super steep climb with 2.2 kilometers to go. That's Primoz Roglic. Lennart van Etvelt is there. And of course, Mas from Movistar's having a fantastic ride. 3 rides. 3 riders, they start playing some tactical games. That allows Almeida to come back. But remember, Almeida got dropped on this climb. So while Sivakov was trying to figure out what Primoz Roglic's form was looking like, maybe UAE team members need to figure out before the attack at 5.2 kilometers to go from Sivakov what the form was of Almeida, what the form was of Yates, and of course, what the form was with Brandon McNulty. And of course, they have Del Toro on there, Jay Vines, Soler. Like I said, they had to use them going into the climb, but they'll end up losing about 7 minutes and 40 seconds on this day. So if Sivakov hadn't attacked on this climb and got dropped himself and lost some time, he ended up finishing 10th on the stage, so he lost about 28-30 seconds there to Primoz Roglic. So it's not all said and done for UAE team members. But let's say Sivakov doesn't attack. We go into 2.5 kilometer. The pace is a little bit slower up there. Jay Vine setting tempo. Then he moves over to the right. Lets Bora Hansgrohe continue the ride to front. You get up to the top at 2.2 kilometer to go. You make that right turn off of the super steep climb. Now all of a sudden, UAE team members have 5 riders, most likely in this front group. We're talking about Sivakov, Almeida, maybe Yates is still up there because no one attacked with the exception of some smaller climbers back there throwing in attacks, making Bora Hansgrohe have to bring it back. If anyone was not that intelligent to attack Bora Hansgrohe, and they wait, they'll get up to 2.2 kilometer to go, and it was just Vlasov riding the front. Well, all of a sudden now you have 5 UAE team members riders up there, quite possibly if the pace was just going a little bit slower. You got 5, and now you can play a tactical game of attacking Bora Hansgrohe when the climb's not so steep. When you're attacking them at 5.2 kilometer to go when it's super steep for 3 kilometers, well, there's not much of a draft there. So every time Primoz Roglic is throwing in his acceleration, no one's getting the same kind of draft effect percentage-wise that they would when you tack at 2.2 kilometer to go. So, like I said, UAE team members, if Sivakov talked to his teammates and they all said, hey, I have fantastic legs, light it up, we want to see where Primoz Roglic is, we believe we can follow. It was a great tactic just because it's the first mountain stage. Personally, I'm not taking this tactic. I'm taking the tactic of we have to get over this 3 kilometers from 5.2 into 2.2 kilometer to go as safe as we possibly can, because I believe Primoz Roglic, as I've told you many times, is the premier rider, and he would be able to control the pace going up that climb. So you want to have all the numbers starting the last 2.25 kilometers that you can possibly have. And with having more UAE team members numbers up there on yesterday's stage 4, they can attack him, as I've already explained. But most importantly, they have not lost time on the general classification for the later mountain stages, where Bora Hansgrohe, we know their team's not exactly super strong in the mountains right now after stage 4. Not bad, as good as anyone else's team for sure. But can they cover 5, 6, 7 UAE team members riders if they're a little bit closer on general classification when we start looking at these next mountain stages? Not today. Today was a sleeper. That's why I'm talking about yesterday's. But when I'm looking at stage 9, it looks like a fantastic stage for UAE team members if they kept their numbers close on general classification to start putting some pressure on Bora Hansgrohe's Primoz Roglic on that stage 9, where they can start attacking early, put some of their guys that can climb, not their biggest threats for general classification, but those other guys, 3rd, 4th, and 5th on the team, have them attacking on stage 9 to put Primoz Roglic under pressure, and maybe his whole Bora Hansgrohe team. Now, the other team I want to talk about, Visma bike. Okay, we saw Wout van Aert win stages. We know he's coming on form. We know Visma bike have given Wout van Aert the green light to win some stages, and he's got Eduardo Affini looking after him. Problem is they lost Dylan van Barley already, so that's 3 riders now out of 8 that aren't going to be there to help Sepp Kuss. Steven Kreiswick wasn't any good with 14.5 kilometers to go. In fact, the only rider I saw from Viz Melissa bike at the front of the peloton, and this is remarkable because when was the last time that you see a dominant team like Viz Melissa bike have no one at the front? It was only Hessink at the front early on that climb, but while he was riding the front, when you look further back, Kian Uterbrooks was way at the back to the left. Sepp Kuss was over to the right. Sepp Kuss, the American rider, the winner of the Vuelta a España last year, found his way up to the front at 5.2 kilometers to go, doing the work himself. Started that climb a little bit off in position when Primoz Roglic punched it. After he caught Sivakov, backed off, Sepp Kuss was the one to bring that second group back up to the first group. That had to take a huge effort when you're talking about 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, and 20% sections. So Sepp Kuss did a monster pull to be able to bring those two groups back together. He ended up losing time again because there is very little draft when Primoz Roglic is going up such a super steep climb. So Sepp Kuss gets dropped, does damage control. He looks like losing only about 30 seconds on yesterday's stage. It doesn't mean the Vuelta a España is over, but when you look at his team, he has no help. Kian Uterbrooks lost a minute and a half on yesterday's stage, and everyone else from Viz Melissa bike are out of the general classification, and none of them were there to help Sepp Kuss to begin with the exception of Hessink, and Hessink's done an amazing job riding stages 2 and 3 here already. So tip of the hat there to Hessink, who's done a fantastic job and was the only rider up there from Viz Melissa bike trying to help Sepp Kuss early in that climb. But overall, Sepp Kuss is going to have to find some more climbing legs in his form. Maybe he can find some more time on Primoz Roglic tactically on some of these mountain stages, but they're not going to allow the American rider to go up in a break, gain 6 minutes again. That's never going to happen here in 2024, unless, of course, he's already 5, 6, 7, 8 minutes down on the general classification. Otherwise, I see no way that Sepp Kuss is going to be given that same kind of gap that he had at last year's 23 edition of the Vuelta a España. They would have to be ludicrous if any team was to let Sepp Kuss go up the road and gain 6 minutes. So I don't see that. But he could be far enough down on general classification that on one of these mountain summits, Primoz Roglic is isolated. He has to let someone go. That's the American rider going. He starts chipping away, gaining 10 seconds, 20 seconds, and 30 seconds on Primoz Roglic. But you know the Slovenian's going to keep an eye on Sepp Kuss because they used to be teammates, so he knows what Sepp Kuss is thinking. So when everything's said and done on stage 4, I didn't like UAE team members' tactics there with Sivakov. It was too unknown at that moment, and it cost them a lot of time on the general classification. And any chance of winning stage 4, it went to Primoz Roglic, and now the Slovenian's wearing the race leader's red jersey, which means his team's going to be 100% motivated going into these next stages. All right. Let's get into this stage 5 now. Let's talk about this. At 177 kilometers, about 110 miles in length, as I said, pancake flat, no climbs up there. It's going to be one for the sprinters. We got 2 riders going up the road. We got Iban Ruiz from Kern Farmer up there, Chomen Uristi there from Escatel Escudi. They got about a 4.5 minute gap on the peloton. They're going to get brought back, there's no doubt about it. We get into 50 kilometers to go. The peloton starts getting nervous with the crosswinds. You see the riders at the back there with their feed bags, tossing them off to the side as a single file. The wind's coming right to left, and these guys are suffering. The bags are out. The pace is going fast. It's curb to curb. Everyone's nervous. Bora Hansgrohe start getting at the front, and that's Primoz Roglic up there with his teammates. As it's curb to curb, you know the peloton's going fast, and you see the 2 riders get wrapped up with about 40 kilometers to go. Now they're racing for the stage win, which we already knew before the stage started, but with 40 kilometers to go, it's official. We come into about 25 kilometers to go. Wout van Aert throws in attack because it's the sprint line competition coming, and on his wheel he's got Caden Groves. Caden Groves hits out hard to the right. It's a bike throw at the line. Caden Groves grabs maximum points here over Wout van Aert, but we still got the stage finish here to get more green points for one of these riders if they can pull out the win, and they are the 2 big-time favorites, Wout van Aert and Caden Groves, to win this stage. As we start going further into the stage, 15 kilometers to go, we start entering the city. Once we start getting into 12 kilometers to go, we're going over the first of the bridge. See this picture of the first bridge with the cable? If you look a little bit past that, there's a second. When the riders exit the first bridge, they're going to make a left, go along the river, make a left, and go back across the second bridge. As they're crossing over the second bridge, it's a left turn. We see the riders are 3 right. Bora Hansgrohe there's on the outside, and as they come through the corner right here, you see right there Owen Duell from EF Education. Well, he's a little bit too relaxed. He's going to hit a bump, and when he does, his hands are slipping off the bars. As they slip, he hits another bump. You see his back tire come up off the wheel, off the ground there. Then all of a sudden, his chest hitting the bars, and he's crashing down hard. Rui Acosta, his teammate there, the Portuguese champion, ex-road world champion from 2013, my old teammate from Lamprey, goes straight into the body there and the bikes there of Owen Dole. He crashes hard, and this is going to end his Vuelta a España in 2024. Owen Dole will get back up, but he's beat up all over the place. Now, if I back the film up just a hair before I showed you Owen Dole all beat up, as Bora Hansgrohe were exiting and the crash was happening on the right side, there's 3 Bora Hansgrohe rider. We see Primoz Roglic is third on the inside. This is keeping them safe. Throughout the Vuelta a España, unlike the Tour de France in 2024, Bora Hansgrohe have been able to keep Primoz Roglic, the Slovenian, in fine position. And right now, they just earn whatever their pay was at this moment as Primoz Roglic will exit the left turn in fine position. One thing I want to point out, though, the rider sitting second and from Bora Hansgrohe in front of Primoz Roglic as they make the left and they have a real quick right coming. It's almost a chicane as the right's coming. That second Bora Hansgrohe rider, he's looking right over his shoulder. He wants to see what's happening in the crash. This is not the time to do it, boys and girls sitting at home. If you're trying to become a professional cyclist, you do not look right when you got Primoz Roglic on your wheel and your sole job is to keep him safe. Nothing happens at this moment. The rider keeps it up, doesn't crash. They make it through the ride, and Primoz Roglic has diverted a crash here at the Vuelta a España in stage 5. It wasn't very close, but we all know how often Primoz Roglic crashes, so it's close enough. They've done a fantastic job. As the road starts to widen up, Bora Hansgrohe still driving it on the front, coming from 9 kilometer all the way into about 6.5 kilometer to go, when we see our man Victor Campenaerts on the front. He's throwing down because he's got Leonard van Etvelt on his wheel, and Leonard van Etvelt, well, he lost yesterday's stage 4 to Primoz Roglic because he celebrated too soon, but he wants to race for the general classification, so our man Victor Campenaerts is on the front, drilling it as they're going through the right turn there. Victor Campenaerts comes out in the front, and Bora Hansgrohe is getting a little lost somewhere right around 5 kilometer to go. We get into 4 kilometer to go. Bora Hansgrohe's back on the front. They're throwing down. They have DSM next to them, and these two teams are drilling it on the front till we get into about 3 kilometer to go. I'll call it 2.8 when Primoz Roglic gets on the radio. He's telling all of his teammates, it's time to abort. We're in the safe position. Let's get out of this dangerous area. As they start backing off at about 2.3, Bora Hansgrohe's guys start easing up. It's Danny Martinez, the last guy left on the front, but Primoz Roglic has already started gapping his teammate as he wants to stay safe. Now, as Bora Hansgrohe get out of the way with just under 2.3 kilometer to go, DSM's all over the front, 4 or 5 riders riding the front right now, and they got Pavel Bittner here as they're trying to lead him out to win today's stage 5. They're all going up the left side, looking fine position right now, controlling the peloton. We start getting into 1.7, just under 2 kilometer to go, I'll call it. We're going to look over the right side though, and it's time for Albacete de Koenig to start accelerating. As they're accelerating up the right, it's a drag race between the two teams as they part ways with DSM on the left side. Behind DSM is Affini and Attila Valtters over there from Visma Lease Bike. We look over to the right. Who's over there? Like I said, Albacete de Koenig, 6 riders going full gas right now. Drag race between the two sprint teams right now. And Wout van Aert is behind Albacete de Koenig. When we look over to the left, DSM start having riders blow on the front. The 3 riders left, they're in panic mode. They know they got to go back over to the right because they need some kind of help over there from Albacete de Koenig as they merge together. We're coming under 1.6 kilometer, 1.5 kilometer to go, and Albacete de Koenig have control of the professional peloton here at the Vuelta a España with 1.5k to go. DSM, though, have not given up all hope. They've gone side by side now next to Albacete de Koenig, and this is the exact tactic you want to employ because Bittner back there, Pavel Bittner, sitting third right there on DSM. He does not want to be left there isolated on his own and fighting to get in there behind Wout van Aert or in front of Wout van Aert and behind Caden Groves. That's a tall order. So his 2 teammates in front doing a fantastic job. One will blow as 1.3 kilometer to go comes into. We see the first of the 6 riders up there from Albacete de Koenig blows. As he blows, I wish he knew his name, but the pictures are hard to tell. Forgive me. Now as they're going full gas with 5 riders, they start coming under 1 kilometer to go, and the next rider's pulling off. As the next rider pulls off, that means we got 4 Albacete de Koenig riders on the front, and next to them, we got 2 DSM riders. Behind them, behind Albacete de Koenig, that is, that's Wout van Aert. We see that Affini's a little bit lost back there. Brian Cocard's in the picture, but Albacete de Koenig's going full gas right now at 750 meters to go. It's Xander Mayus. He's tapping his teammate just in front of him. He's saying, I got this now. It's 750 meters to go. We got 3 guys, and one's our sprinter, Caden Groves. We're going to win today, stage 5, as he's tapping his teammate. His teammate starts to pull off at 750. Xander Mayus starts keeping the acceleration there on the pedals, full gas. As he's coming under the trees there, we're getting into about 500 meters to go. Once we get into there, Pavel Bittner start going into damage control right now because his last leadout guy's pulling off. As he pulls off, that means Pavel Bittner from DSM, he has to find a wheel there to get a draft because 500 meters to go. It's too far to win today, stage 5. So he's pulling tight right behind Wout van Aert. As he's pulling tight, he's starting to bump a little bit there with the Cofidis rider, Brian Cocard. Brian Cocard bumps with everybody because Brian Cocard's always left isolated on his own in these sprint finishes, so he knows how to throw the elbows left and right. As these 2 riders are bumping, the trees are getting in the way, so I can't tell you exactly what happens, but as they come between the trees, we see they're still bumping. As they come out of the trees, Eduardo Affini from Vismalisa bikes excelling up the right side there of the peloton with about 400 meters to go. I backed the film all the way up to 1.7. Eduardo Affini, like I told you earlier, was on the left side behind DSM. As they merged together, he had to slot behind Wout van Aert, move himself over to the right side, avoid all the carnage there at 500, the bumping and grinding between Pavel Bittner and Brian Cocard. Now he's moving up the right side. He's got Wout van Aert as he's passing him. He's hoping the big guy, Wout van Aert, number 5 on my list of the best riders on the world. He's hoping Wout van Aert, the big guy, to hop on his wheels. He's passing by at 400 meters to go. He starts his acceleration, but Wout van Aert doesn't jump. He's like, no way. I got Caden Groves right in front of me. He's still got 2 teammates in front of him. As we see Affini start his acceleration, he's coming up to the front. Xander Mayus starts his acceleration, and it's a bit of a drag. Neither one's winning, but right now Xander Mayus is starting to blow at about 350, 375 meters to go. Xander Mayus blows. Affini realizes he can't do anything up here, so he backs off. And then Edward Plankert throws in acceleration. They're a little bit to the right side, kind of center of the road. Ed Plankert throws in a huge acceleration. He's going to the left. If I take you back to the beginning of this stage when they showed the picture of the finish line, we know it's a left bend into the finish at about 300 meters to go. This is why Ed Plankert now is going from the right side center of the road to the left side. As he starts moving over to the left, this is helping out Pavel Bittner back there from DSM, because as they start to move left, that means Brian Cocard's going to start to get a little bit pushed out, and it's going to give a little draft behind Wout van Aert. Now we start coming out of the bend. Ed Plankert's on the front. We see Caden Groves there sitting second wheel. Wout van Aert's third. We see Pavel Bittner's there just fighting for position, kind of bumping still a little bit with Brian Cocard, but it's just about ran its course because Wout van Aert's throwing in an acceleration. At the same time he throws in an acceleration, half a second later, maybe 1 second later, Caden Groves looks right over his shoulder as he's looking right. Guess what? Wout van Aert's going left. Why is he going left? Well, up front, Ed Plankert went to the left, but not all the way to the left when he exit. Left too much room on the left, so Wout van Aert's shooting up the left side as Caden Groves looking right. Then all of a sudden, Caden Groves can't see anything right, so he looks left. As he's looking left, he sees Wout van Aert accelerating up the left side. He's in danger mode right now because he knows he's getting caught behind. As he starts his acceleration, it's a little bit too late. Ed Plankert's in the center. Wout van Aert's splitting by on the left side. We see Caden Groves going by on the right side of Ed Plankert. As they're coming around the Albacete de Koenig rider, they're going to try to meet, but guess what? Caden Groves doesn't have the legs. He's got a gap just behind Wout van Aert, but Wout van Aert's got some problems. He jumped at about 275 meters to go. It's Pavel Bittner, DSM, still locked onto the wheel, the big guy Wout van Aert. We're coming into about 200, 175 meters to go. Pavel Bittner starts his acceleration. Caden Groves is left over there to the right. He can't get onto the wheels. Pavel Bittner jumps to the right side there. Wout van Aert, he starts his acceleration. At 100 meters to go, they're side by side. It's the big guy, Wout van Aert, and Pavel Bittner, the 21-year-old from DSM. As the drag race starts, it continues at 75. It continues to 50 meters. It's still a drag race. Now we go into 25 meters to go. It's still a drag race between Wout van Aert and Pavel Bittner. We get into 15 meters to go, maybe about 10. You make the call on this. It's too difficult for me to say. But Wout van Aert throws his bike too early. He's the first to throw it. Pavel Bittner still accelerating on the wheels. He throws his bike just a little bit later. Wout van Aert realizes he threw it too early here on stage 5 of the Vuelta a España, throws a couple more accelerations on the pedal, then throws his bike a second time. As they cross the line, I can't call it. It's too hard to tell. They're neck and neck. We start looking at the aerial shot all over from the pictures again, as we see with about 175 meters to go. ago when Pavel Bittner started his sprint, when they're side by side all the way to the finish and they throw it at the finish line, it's still too hard to tell. The cameras finally find Pavel Bittner, and you know he won. But when we see the side angle, the official camera there, that gives you the official results, we see that Pavel Bittner won by about 1/3 of a wheel over the big guy, Wout van Aert, who threw his bike just a little bit too soon here on stage 5 and loses today's stage. It was a great finish to the stage here for Pavel Bittner, who said in his interview afterwards that he just got done winning his first pro victory here of his career just a week ago. He did that at Vuelta a Burgos, won not one, but 2 stages there. Now comes here and beats Wout van Aert. He says he was impressed to be able to beat Wout van Aert on a long sprint finish here that's usually ideal for the big guy. But honestly, big guy jumped too early at about 275 meters to go as they exited that corner. He wanted to get the early jump again on Caden Groves, but predicted too wrong that Pavel Bittner's form wouldn't be good enough to be able to give him a drag race all the way to the line, and Wout van Aert threw his bike early. So at the end, Pavel Bittner, hats off to you for winning your first Grand Tour victory here at the Vuelta a España. Tip of the hat. Man, when you start winning back-to-back weeks here, Vuelta a Burgos and at the Vuelta a España, you know you're on good form. Like and subscribe. I'll see you guys for the next edition, Stage 6 of the Vuelta a España real soon.